Welcome to the show. We hope you have a blast. Thanks for making time for the Dealer Talk podcast. Another business leader, here's a penny for your thoughts. This ain't a regular conversation, baby. This that Dealer Talk. Yeah, this that Dealer Talk.
What up? Welcome to another episode of the Dealer Talk podcast. This is your host, Herb Anderson. Thank you so much for tuning in. Man, this is going to be a very, very interesting episode. We've been off for several weeks, trying to wrap up season 6. So let's just dive right into it. Today I have Charity Ann on the program. Charity, what's up? How are you?
What's up? I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. You know, it's interesting because we've been, I think the last episode we did was in February. And
Was it
there's
February?
only, I think so. And there's only one episode to close off the season, but there was a bunch of stuff happening, NADA, and then, dealer visits, and then procrastination.
Procrastination. You owned it.
Yes. But nonetheless, here we are.
Here we are.
So we're going to start to do things a little bit differently here, at the Dealer Talk podcast, just to kind of switch it up a bit.
Mhm.
So hopefully you guys like it. So we're going to have Charity Ann on with us as a co-host, which, it's been a minute since I thought I started this thing out with Eric, and we had, I think, 3 seasons. And then, I kind of started doing it by myself. And then now I'm going to have Charity join us for some
Insight.
you know what I mean? Some insights, yes, and some direction, because I get a little bit crazy on this thing and start rambling a bunch. And that's not good.
You're rambling, or you anticipate rambling to happen in the future?
Both.
No, I don't ramble ever.
So on this episode, we thought we would kind of just talk about the new setup. I mean, we're still going to have a guest on. Obviously, that's the whole core of the show. But we're also going to be introducing some segments and things that hopefully all of you find valuable. So I figured on this episode we'd kind of recap the season first, talk about some of our highlight episodes and guests that we had on, and maybe kind of share some of the takeaways. What do you think?
Let's go. I am game.
So the first one that comes to my mind, without question, Ali Rita. Like having Ali Rita on again. This time with video, and you can actually hear what he's saying, because I listened to that first the first episode we did with him. Man, it was back in the rough days. When
Rita was the first one that I was on, though.
Yeah, that was the first one you were on too. So
I was nervous.
Why?
Because I've never done a podcast before, and you were totally pumped about that episode.
Oh yeah, but I've known Ali for a really long time, and I remember when he first started out, and to see his trajectory and all the things that he's accomplished it's pretty incredible. But my takeaway from that session was he talked about community. He's a very community oriented guy, and for all the marketing strategies and all the digital efforts, nothing beats being in your market. And he has a saying. He talks about marketing where you are, and I think that makes a whole lot of sense. You do things in your community, and then people see you and they connect those efforts with you.
I definitely think about that a lot, actually. Like at work, I think about that episode and all of the times, because I secret shop a lot, and just having that conversation that makes you feel like you're part of a community, or that you're a human on the phone with your customer, or that your customer's a human on the phone. It always makes me think of that episode for some reason.
Yeah, I think sometimes we get, especially now, because there's more and more people taking to social media, which is awesome to see. I love seeing that in the automotive space. There's a lot of um, salespeople and just dealership personnel, because I've seen porters, I've seen receptionists, I've seen salespeople kind of take to social media and have some success with that. But I think that we fall in the trap of the vanity metrics and how many likes we get and how many.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's not, it's weird to say, because it's not like you're going to do something to get no views. Like, that's not the goal either. I mean, if you're doing it, if that's the outcome, then what's the point?
So you're not, yeah.
But
wasting time.
What's cool about it, though, is, or what I like about that, about him, about Ali, is that he doesn't get caught up in that trap. Like, he could do a lot of social media stuff and he'd probably get a lot of engagement. You know what I mean? But he doesn't do a whole lot of it. Because he's true to what what he preaches. He's like, there's no point in being social media famous for him, because he wants to be able to, impact the people that he can help. And those are the people that are in his backyard.
Well, and you said that on other episodes too. Like when you did the Dodge Father one, I think it was the Dodge Father, you had said, you can have 1,000 likes, but are you really going to be able to work with 1,000 people if they all walked in the door at the same time? Like, that vanity metric for sure. Like, that'll make you feel good, but it doesn't accomplish the goal.
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, I really appreciated that episode and getting his perspective. And he talked about the COVID and the things that they had done to help in the community with that. So, another perspective shift from him was the shift, right? Not to, repeat that word twice, but I just did. But the shift, right, in kind of like the salesman post or pre-COVID and the salesman during during COVID and during that situation, and how they've had to evolve. And he was talking about even buying cars, switching to buying cars versus selling cars, because this pipeline was so backed up. And I think that salespeople that were in the industry before realized that. The ones that came in during that time, they just got lucky, and but
yeah, I call them COVID babies.
Yeah,
they have no clue. Most of my team is like that. They're all COVID babies, so they have no concept of what it was like before. And we have an acquisitions team, and we didn't have that before, right? So that's just normal for them to think, oh, you've got this team of people that buys cars, and you've got a team of people who sells cars. And that's such a new concept, at least in the time frame that I've been in the business.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah. So thanks, Ollie, if you're listening to this, bro, for coming on again. Appreciate you. Another one that, I mean, they're all great. I'm not going to name all of them, because they're all fantastic, if I do say so myself. But there's several that were like, yeah, this was really good. Another one that got me, man, was Jim Sigler, Alpha Dog. Like, dude, damn, that guy, what a session! I was like, mind blown. Everything he said, I was like, oh my God, that's so true. So, but I mean, can you expect anything less from the dude? Like, he's been doing this thing for like years and years upon years, So, what was your takeaway from that session?
From the Ziegler one?
Yeah.
Ooh, you were a huge fanboy on that one. That was my takeaway. Like, you nerded out hardcore.
Yeah, I think I almost cried at the end of the episode, and I was thanking him for being on the show. I was like, dude, get it together, man.
I think for me, it was the conversation that we had, or you guys had about the stigma in the automotive industry is propagated by the vendors. Like, I'd never thought of it that way before. And then he said that, and I was like, mind blown. Like, oh my gosh, that is so true. And it feels like, sometimes it feels like the mafia, right? Like, hey, if you pay us right, then we'll make your lives easier.
Yeah, but they can't even do that. That's not even, like they're everything is so siloed in the vendor space for the car, for the retail side of the automotive industry.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a vendor out there that does anything that's comprehensive. They all do little segments, right? Little segments of your operation, and then you have to go in there and shift through the information that matters so that you can make better decisions. That's why I'm a big advocate, and I've been kind of talking a lot about that during the season, but I'm a big advocate of having a data analyst at your stores. I think that should be a position at every dealership moving forward. Like, there's got to be somebody that's data focused, data centric, that can take all this information and come up with their own dashboard or their own way to interpret this information and spit it out to the decision makers in a way that allows them to make decisions. Because you can't expect a GM, for example, who's the ultimate decision maker at the store, to be able to go onto every single platform, Viato, Trader, Cars.com, Vin Solutions,
or side of it, like,
or
yeah,
their DMS, their CRM, all these different things, and pull the information. Like, there's no way, man. And run a dealership and make sure that he coaches his people and make sure there's no way.
Right.
But what happens is that you miss a lot of valuable insights because you don't have, not because you don't have access or the know-how or whatever, but because they don't have the capacity, and it shouldn't even be their responsibility. There should be somebody in the dealership that's sole responsibility is to put that stuff together. I was going to say shit, so let me just say that. Put that shit together and do something with that information, you know what I mean? And present it and be like, okay, I'm going to shift through all the garbage that makes no sense to you, and I'm going to give you the stuff that actually allows you to make decisions that are going to move the operation forward.
Well, I remember the first time I was in a meeting with you ever, a manager meeting, sitting there, and you had all this data from all these different sources, and I'd never heard it talked about like that before. And I remember just sitting there thinking, so you obviously know, but there's a lot of different dealerships in my group, and it gets really disconnected. And sitting in that meeting with you was the first time I realized that all it takes is one person to connect it all, and then you see the full picture instead of like just the piecemeal. It's not to sound like a super mom or anything, but it's like a quilt.
I like that. Yes, yeah. I agree. But yeah, I mean so yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of on a tangent now because we said the word vendor, but when it comes to the stigma and stuff, yeah, that was a big one that he brought to. For me, he said, you're performing weddings, right? Like when we talked about the current situation, and he's like, you're performing weddings, and bad ones at that. You know what I mean? Like, that was such a aha moment for me, because I mean, it's obvious that there's going to be repercussions to the current situation in 2 years, 3 years down the line, right? When all this stuff starts to catch up to us and customers start to come back and they bought their car and they paid X amount of dollars over or whatever. And the customer isn't going to forget, first of all, that they paid that money, that they paid that overage. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to overcome. And then when they come back and they're expecting the dealer to, get them out of those situations, that's going to be an interesting interaction.
Well, and so I don't even think that, I think it's even further back than that. I don't think that they're even going to expect it. You and I look at it from the perspective of being in the business and understanding the consequences of that kind of stuff. Most people, they buy a car, every 5 years, they don't understand negative equity quite the way that we do. So they're going to be walking in thinking, oh, I'm just going to buy a new car. And then we're going to drop the bomb.
Well, I mean, yes, I agree with you, but I also think that, I mean, people aren't dumb. They know that they pay $10,000 over that car or $5,000 over that car.
Some
Right?
people will know that, but
That's not just going to poof magically just disappear into their loan, you know?
But again, but they're thinking that you're looking at it from the perspective of somebody who works in the industry. They're looking at it as, I bought a car today. I will deal with the issues of that car later on. They don't.
And who are they going to deal with that issue with?
Right. No, I just think it's going to be a lot more impactful because I don't think that they're going to anticipate it when it happens. And so then it's gonna be more intense than I think we realize.
Yes, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's going to be real intense. I think people are going to come in and they're going to expect the dealer to get them out of that situation that we got them into in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I say that understanding why we do it too. I mean, we should be charging more. That's supply and demand 101. There's no, to me, that's not like, I think the dealer should be charging more. Like, if you can't get the car and the demand is there and you have the only one or the only few ones, you can only sell that car a couple of times, or, you know, you can only sell one car one time. You know, if you have a couple of them, you can sell them a couple of times. But after that, you're out of the inventory. So you should make as much money on that piece of inventory as possible, period. I mean, I don't have any qualms with that.
Well, and, you know, inflation.
Right. But
everything's more expensive. I have this conversation all the time on the phone. Well, somebody will be like, that's so expensive. And I'm like, I literally just went to Target the other day and their jeans were $70 at Target. Like, welcome to inflation. This is a thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's further than that. And when we talk about the next episode, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But, you know, my point is that that was such a takeaway for me, because it makes me think about how we can leverage that situation in the future. It's not so much the issue, because the issue is going to be there, but at least from the marketing side, how can we leverage that? Like, can we come up with messaging that's like, hey, pay too much for your car during COVID, you know, we can help you, sort of a campaign, you know, and do things now, get things in place now so that you're better prepared for when that time comes. Because think about it, if you can navigate that situation, if you can navigate that situation successfully, man, you're gonna win a lot of customers. Imagine having some sort of a program or initiative where you're like, hey, you're, you know, I mean, you wouldn't say it like this, but your dealership screwed you during COVID, you know, I'll hook you up. Come see me. Something like that, you know?
Oh,
like,
that'll be part of, somebody will say that.
Yeah. So, you know, like that, I mean, seriously, I think that there's opportunity there.
But then that goes back to showing the amount of changes and shifts in the industry that have happened over, like, we're all just doing this on the fly right now. Like, this is all new territory for everyone.
I know. And I love it though. I love it so much. Like, I think that, I mean, I know that COVID was such a bad thing, you know, and when I say this and I said this a couple of times in the show, and after I reflected on the episode, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. But it was so good for the automotive industry. It was so positive for the automotive industry in so many different ways. The biggest one being progress. Like, man, COVID just really forced decision makers to look at their business different and to take risks that they wouldn't have taken before.
Well, and to do things that had always been like, oh yeah, we should probably do that at some point, I guess. And then all of a sudden, like the whole idea of having an acquisitions team, that's always been kind of, at least for me in my world, floating around. Yeah, we should probably do something like that. And then it became a necessity. We needed it. We needed to be able to find vehicles in another way.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that too, because that was another episode that we did that was really good. So I'll leave my thoughts for when we cross that bridge. But yes, I agree with you.
So those were your two favorite episodes?
No, I mean there were all my favorite episodes. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this, so I enjoy every single one of them. But these are the ones that that were like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, and this is why I started the podcast to begin with. It's such a selfish initiative for me because I learned so much just by having these conversations. It's kind of crazy how it accelerates my learning and my understanding of certain things. So the other thing that I liked about that episode with Jim was just hearing his story, man. Like, this guy has accomplished so much, and just to know that he started from the bottom. Not to quote, what's that guy's name? The song started from the bottom. No, oh shoot, I can't say that. YouTube's gonna like shut us down. That's not a song, YouTube. That's just me saying it.
I never know what songs you're picking. Like,
there's a song that says
so
started
fun
from
fact,
the bottom.
Herb likes music a lot. And he knows way more about music than I do.
Yeah, what's that guy's name? Jeez, now it's gonna bother me. Anyway. But the fact that he you know what I mean? That he took a chance on himself. He's talking about leaving with a mattress on the hood, and within 5 years he was a millionaire. And I don't know.
But that's what I love about the automotive industry, and I know that you love that too. And that's something that you've talked about. Is there's so many. That's how it was for me. Not that I'm a multimillionaire, but
not yet, Foureyes. Not yet.
I'm on my way. But life-changing, absolutely life-changing, working in the automotive industry. And it has, going back to the stigma thing, it has such a bad stigma, and yet it changes people's lives for the better all the time.
It does. It sure does. And you're right. That's that's one of the things that I love about this industry the most. But it's also my biggest
pet peeve.
No, it's not even that. It's like I want to change that so bad. Like I want to, by doing the podcast, by having content out there, by hopefully, younger generation.
What do you want to change?
I want people to want to be in this industry. I want people to say, I want to be in the car business. I want to go sell cars, or I want to do marketing for a dealership, or I want to be a service advisor or a service manager. I don't want people to stumble into the industry. You know what I mean? Like most of us do.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just kind of end up here.
Being a lawyer or a doctor or something.
Yeah, I want it to be a destination for folks because it's such a great, rewarding, fast-paced, energetic, tough industry.
Really tough industry.
You know what I mean? Like, but I love that. I love that there's no BS in the car business. Listen, you're either winning or you're not. That's simple.
It's results based completely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a,
yeah.
It's very empowering, especially when you are successful, you know that you did the work. You know what I mean? Like you put in the work, you put in the time, you did the things that you needed to do to get the results.
Yeah.
Like that's huge. So maybe not so much during COVID, but I'm teasing.
Not for the COVID babies, but
yeah, I'm sure a lot of them are going to be in the industry for many, 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 many years. How can you not be after, $20,000, $30,000 monthly paychecks?
Okay, but do you really think so? When that's the way that, and this might just be because I'm a pre-COVID, and so the way that I look at the automotive industry is a little bit different. But when you start with it being super, super good, and then you discover hard, like, do you think they'll stick around? Or they'll be like, I'm out, man. I thought this was going to be easy.
No, I think that I think it's a self-cleaning industry to a certain degree.
Self-cleaning.
I do, man. Because the people that are, that are not going to make it, they're not going to be here because they're not going to be making money. So.
And no, I agree. When you were saying, like about your own motivation a minute ago, I was thinking about these. So I know, but maybe not everybody else knows. I work in BDC and I work with a lot of entry level, like 19-year-olds, and trying to get them to the aha moment. You visibly watch it happen or not happen. So yeah, that self-made person, like you can tap into that or you can tap out of that. And when you walk into the automotive industry and you're making $20,000 a year or a year,
I'm out.
You're in car sales and you're only making $20,000 a year. You need to adjust.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That you're not making it, so you're gonna exit yourself out of the industry.
There's a couple books I've got you could read.
Now more than ever, businesses need more efficient sales. That's why thousands of dealerships trust Foureyes to help with things like automated inventory email updates and ensuring all of your leads get into the CRM. To try Foureyes for free, visit foureyes.io/dealertalk. That's foureyes.io/dealertalk.
Yeah, I was talking to a GM the other day about this new salesperson that they had, and he's like, I mean, they're selling like 1.5 cars, so I'm just gonna let them exit themselves.
Yeah, but you can like visibly see it. You can watch it happen.
I know. That's why it's beautiful. That's why I appreciate stories like the Alpha Dog, man. Like this guy's like, he's a legend, man. And what was so cool about that one for me, why I got emotional and why I appreciated that interaction with him so much, is because I've been listening to his content for years.
Mm-hmm.
And to actually, it's actually had an impact on my career path. It's actually helped me. And then to actually have the opportunity to talk to him, to thank him, to pick his brain, like, man, it's cool, So, all right, moving on. Another one that was a great conversation and that's near and dear to my heart was I think it was the first episode we did or the second with Owen Moon from Fixed Ops Digital.
Yes, I remember that
service one. For me, obviously, is that's where I cut my teeth. That's where I started, and I see a lot of issues with service coming down the pipeline. That I still see a lot of dealers high-fiving each other and putting out record service months. But listen, historically, after 12 months or after a slowdown in new car business, you see a slowdown that directly correlates to that on the service drive between 6 and 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's coming and it's going to come hard. The other thing that we talked about during that episode is the change of the customer. Like this impacted service and it came from nowhere. Like at least on the sales side, you had digital retailing for all the issues that the front had for some dealers where they had to close their stores and they couldn't sell cars and they had to do everything remotely or whatever. They still had alternatives. The service department changed overnight. All of a sudden, yes, they were open because they were considered essential, but you had to have shields and spray cars and pick up people and drop off people and do all these things that you're not used to doing. And the customer now is different. And we're not talking about that enough. There's not enough content out there about that. Like the customer is different. COVID didn't last 2 weeks. It lasted 2 years. That's a really long time. A lot of behaviors have changed.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, the customer now is going to expect their vehicles to be sprayed down, and they're going to expect, in some cases, to be picked up or to have some sort of driver or touchless service interaction. You know what I mean? Like people are going to be freaked out about germs and all that stuff for a long time. Like we're going to see people, years from now in airplanes wearing masks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's just all these things are here to stay. These behaviors are here to stay. And we have to adapt, and not just adapt momentarily, but we have to adapt for the future.
Right.
So, and all that stuff is going to impact the way that we do business. You talked about inflation earlier. We're not in inflation. We're in stagflation. We have inflation, and our pay isn't increasing with the inflation. Right. So that means we're going to have less disposable income. That means we're going to have less money to spend on cars and fix our cars. The mean year of the vehicle is higher. I think it's 12 years now, or 11.9 years or something like that.
11 and something, I think, is what I saw last.
Right. So the people that are going to be investing on their cars, they're probably not going to think about the dealer as their first choice, especially for older vehicles that are outside of warranties. So we're going to see a decrease. We're already seeing a decrease in RO. So if you see a decrease in RO, then you have to focus on a per customer transaction, right? You have to make sure that you can get more out of the customers that you do have to make up the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, on the positive side, I think that COVID has helped with that, because you do have less customers coming into the drive. So that frees you up as an ASM, as a service advisor, to really provide service to that customer. And that interaction, is going to yield more, higher tickets. But there's a lot of adjustment that needs to happen, in the drive. Look at gas prices. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's another thing. Like, do you think people are going to be I'm going to go on a trip this summer, in my souped up van, or my
souped up van,
or my souped up truck, or whatever? Yeah, people soup up. People do soup up vans. What's wrong with that?
I'm literally thinking of like some lady with her 5 kids and her like lifted.
No, man. The van life movement. Come on now. Like, like sprinters? People like,
right?
They custom those bad boys up. You know what I mean?
Like tiny houses on wheels.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
So, I mean, people are going to be very reluctant to, take those long trips and spend hundreds of dollars in gas. I mean, all those things that nobody's talking about. Those are things that are they're problems that we're going to have to face here. And, when the music stops, we'll see where,
See, but I don't think that this goes back to my quilt. I don't think that nobody's talking about them. I think that people talk about them here, and they talk about them over there, and they talk about them, but there's no coming together to have that dialogue that creates the shift. Like you said, it frees up time for people to focus more on customer service. On a everyday level, that's not the way that they're not thinking that. They're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have anybody coming into the drive. I'm going to panic. And they don't think, hey, this frees up my time. It's the dialogue that happens on a larger level that allows people to start thinking in ways that are less.
Yeah, but I mean, on the drive, you're selling time, essentially. Right, so having less can be a good thing depending on what kind of advisor you are. So, but that being said, beyond that, we have to start making those adjustments. Like our marketing strategies need to change, for example, right? We have to be more focused on customers that have older vehicles and trying to get those folks into the dealership, which is a lot harder to do, because when you don't have a warranty, and if you haven't built that loyalty with that customer, just for whatever reason, they think that the dealership is more expensive, and so they want to go to the local mom and pop shop to get their vehicles repaired.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? And that's a problem. And it's also not the truth. Like there, in a lot of situations, you can get the repairs done cheaper or at the same, level of pricing if you were to compare apples to apples. Now, if you go to an independent and they give you all aftermarket, shitty parts, then of course it's going to be cheaper, and you're not going to have certified mechanics and all these things. But if you're looking at apples to apples, it's going to be more advantageous for you to go to the dealership. Plus, let's not forget that these places can't accommodate for the amenities that a dealership has and the conveniences that a dealership has. So, but we internally at the dealership need to start building those campaigns now. Mm-hmm. Because when we do have those conversations that you mentioned of like, oh shit, it's slow, nobody's coming in the drive, it's too late.
Right.
By the time you catch up, like, you're behind.
Well, and then you're playing catch up and not being proactive.
Right. So
you're reactive.
Yeah. So it was great. But, I really enjoyed, and that was early on, and I say early on, like it was in the midst of, the whole pandemic. And
no, what's funny for me is that on a mildly personal level is that I was doing the social media for you back then. So nobody knew who I was, but I knew who all of them were. So then I went to Digital Dealer and I was like, hi, how are you? And they were like, I have no idea who you are.
That's funny.
That was really weird for me. That was weird.
Yeah. So, but yes. So, and he also, the other thing and we didn't talk about it in length, but we did talk about text message marketing a little bit. And I like that. The more that we can do with text message, I think that it's huge for the industry. 98% open rates. It's on your phone, which you carry with you all the time. Having the ability.
Told you the statistic on the amount of text messages that go out every day in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember what it was, but I remember the 98% open rate.
SMS, not app-to-app communications, which means WhatsApp or Messenger or even Apple to Apple. None of those count. Just SMS. 6 billion in the United States every day, and with a 98% open rate. Like, what are we doing not utilizing that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of issues with the privacy issues and stuff that we have to overcome. I think that they just adjusted the restrictions, I think in February or March, something like that. So there's a little bit more leniency on that now, I believe. But yeah, I think that
because then they just did the registration thing. I just saw something about it. You have to have like a registered phone number.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to misquote here. So do your own analysis. But what I believe is, you know what I mean, based on what I've heard, is that now you can send text message with an opt-out in the beginning. It has to say if you don't want to continue to receive these types of messages, opt out, sort of a deal.
Yeah. Well, the moral of the story is there were definite shifts that happened this year. So investigate them.
Investigate those, and then make sure that every state has their own privacy laws. And so that it gets very complicated. I don't want to mislead people. So, but I think text message marketing is coming, and that's huge. I think that's going to be a game changer.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This is where the editor puts like ominous music here. A game changer, ominous music. And then, so Luis, put ominous music here.
He really is
our editor. So shout out to the writer. That's what we call him.
The writer. We do. We do call him that.
Yeah. Okay. So another episode. So Owen, my man, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hi.
I know you listen. So shout out to you.
And I did say hi to him at Digital Dealer, and he didn't.
Oh, you saw him?
Oh yeah.
Right.
I totally nerded out.
He's great, man. I love him. He's awesome. Another episode that is worth highlighting, you already alluded to it a little bit, was the one with Danny from VinQ.
Mm-hmm.
That was such a good episode. I think the perspective that they have when it comes to acquisition is ahead. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like just the concept of having a buying team. Like it just makes sense. You know, you should have people that are their sole job is to buy cars. That's it.
Yeah.
And I think if you do that, the shift towards acquisition changes in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you know that Danny definitely impacted my dealership for sure, but they tasked me with building the acquisitions team at first, and I was like, sure, that sounds like a great idea. And that was so much more than I had anticipated it being. I just thought it was going to be like get a couple people on the phones and create a couple of spreadsheets and we're good to go. And I definitely relied on the concepts from that episode and from Danny to be able to jumpstart that and then hand my little baby off to somebody else, which I was really glad to do by the time it happened.
I don't want this anymore.
I'm good. You guys take over.
Yeah, no, but I what did you think about his concepts and the way that they look at acquisition?
Oh, like I totally, we use the concepts in the way that he looks at acquisition, like just the simple things. Like he said, you should separate it out of your CRM, have your acquisitions team separate. Don't muddy the waters between like your BDC and your, we call it a VAC. I think he calls it a VBC, but that was massive because when I first started implementing it, I said, okay, well, I'll just have one of my BDC agents making phone calls on acquisitions as well. And that the tension that created in my office. And he had said, don't do it like that. And I was like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He definitely knew what he was talking about. So no, that was a really good episode.
Yeah.
Very, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, it makes sense. The having the acquisitions team separate from a sales team, and then just have them focused on acquiring vehicles.
Separate from all of the teams. They've got to be their own entity.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like completely separate. All separate management, separate department. They're not buying cars. All they do, I mean, they're not selling cars. They're just focused on buying. And you can see.
I mean, for me, it was for the sole purpose that I could go, not my shit, not picking it up. Like, that's yours. You guys can take it now. Like,
yeah, well,
it didn't muddy the waters.
And that's what I was going to say. There's less contamination, right? And you can, as a BDC where you're developing business and stuff, it's one less task that prevents you from your main focus, which is to, bring new business to the dealership.
Right.
So.
And then you have teams. A lot of times in like a BDC or something, you'll get one of the easiest appointments that an agent ever picks up on is, hey, do you want to come in for a free appraisal? And I massively dislike those. For my team to be doing those kinds of calls for multiple reasons, but taking the acquisitions completely out of the BDC means that they can't use that as a crutch for setting appointments either. And then you're not making your sales team angry at you. You're not making your customer base angry at you by doing free appraisal appointments. That's just all. It's just the acquisitions team that does all of that. Doesn't muddy the water.
And I'm gonna plug their product here really quick. Just disclaimer, I'm not getting paid anything to say this, but I think that their system is pretty cool too, because it allows you to see everything in one dashboard. So if you're looking for something, I would definitely check them out. Again, I'm not getting paid anything. Like, this is just my own personal opinion. But to be able, just the fact that you can see everything on one screen, all the different. And when I say everything, I mean your outbound efforts. Like if you're buying from third parties and stuff, instead of having to go to each one separately, you can log into this portal and set it up, for vehicles that you're interested in, and then it will display those for you, so you can reach out to these folks and try to make deals. So, and there's a lot more things on there. That's just the stuff that I find extremely valuable, and I think that they've done a really good job putting that together.
Yeah. And he's really
so nice. Danny, if you hear this, you can send me a check in the mail if you. No, I'm just.
Oh, me. Not you.
All right. Another great session, in my opinion, that was very insightful was my conversation with the folks over at S Media. They've had a rough go because their CEO passed away. I think it was last year, and they've been in the midst of kind of not restructuring, because their core products are pretty solid, but innovating. They've been innovating, creating new things, and I that's a company to watch out for, in my opinion. I think that there's some cool things that are going to be coming from them, or we should expect to see from them in the future. But what I really liked was their understanding of digital, and I think they mentioned digital transformation is what they talked about a couple of times. Was that your dog that just barked? Come on, that's like a no on podcast.
What do you want me to do? If I take her out of the room, she'll bark more.
Yeah. We got to fix that.
I'll fix it.
Or at least put her on the screen so people can see her.
No, she looks like a rat right now. I'll get her all cleaned up. I'll send her to the spa for the day, and then you guys can see her.
So, this concept of digital transformation, I think that's spot on. I think that the future is going to be VIN specific marketing. I think that we're, like if you think about it at the dealership level, everything happens at a VIN level except for our marketing. And when I talk about VIN specific, I mean marketing cars that need help. Not all your inventory needs help. There's cars that organically, and just by the type of cars that they are, being high scarcity and all these things, they're going to get activity, and you don't need to spend money on them. But if you include them in dynamic efforts and things of that nature, then they're a part of those strategies, and those are cars that are going to get more clicks, and they're going to cost you money unnecessarily. And I think that the future is going to be a way to do it VIN specific. I said this multiple times on the podcast. I think that it's going to be website based. I think that we're going to have, it's just time for a technologically advanced website that it's not just front facing and it's, look at my cars displayed nicely, but it has more technology attached to it that allows you to look at your cars from a specific view. It allows you to market cars specifically based on their performance and the activity that they're getting, and things of that nature. And I really think that's the future. What are your thoughts? You're smirking there, so
because that's kind of what you're nerding out on lately. So I just know that because I know you. So that's what your focus is lately, is on that entire aspect. And I totally agree. I agree. I also am smirking because I feel like the comic relief right now, that one was one of my favorite episodes to watch. Because the episode, this like random person in a police uniform walks past in the back, and I had to call you and be like, where are they?
Well, but they were having their Halloween party.
Yeah, I know.
So
I was like, were they at the jail? They were like, hey, hang on, we know we're getting arrested, but we got to do a podcast really quickly.
Yes. Let's see. And then the last one here. I mean, there were some other great ones. Like we had William K. Hollis on the show, and that was more a motivational. That was my attempt at a motivational episode. So hopefully people got some of that. He's great. I love him. I love his content. I think that he's a very inspirational dude, and I think that that we need that sometimes, especially in this industry. It can be very, like I said earlier, it's rough. And, your bad days, you feel very inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When you have a bad day in our industry, you just feel very inadequate. And you need that. You need something that's going to pump you up. You know what I mean? You have to have that resilience that allows you to take the hit today and then wake up tomorrow and be ready to do it all over again and do it better this day. And, I mean, listen, we're going to have shitty days. That's life. But we can't stay there, right? We have to find a way forward.
The thing about that episode that where do you see in the 5 years? You asked him differently. But
I asked him about the motivational business.
Right.
Where does he see the motivational business?
And he said motivational stuff over music. That's what he said. He saw that becoming a big shift. That is so true.
Well, look at all the reels on Instagram now.
After that, I'm like, wow, this is everywhere. Every morning, that's the kind of stuff that I listen to when I'm getting ready.
Yeah,
is that kind of stuff.
Yes, we need that in the car business, folks. Get your motivation on early, so you can take on the day.
What do you do though? Like when you get up and you get motivated in the mornings, do you or do you just be like a zombie?
Are you talking about me personally?
Yeah, specifically.
Well, so I different things. I journal is one thing, and then I exercise. I run typically. I like to do a 5K almost every day, and I meditate. I find that if I run and immediately after that meditate, it's just because running in itself is kind of puts you in a meditative state.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
So if you get done with that and then you immediately get into a 10-minute motivation session, or not motivation, but meditation session, it just really enhances that. And it just, once I do that, it just gets me going. Like I'm ready.
For the day.
Yeah.
Ready to crush it.
Yes. We try. We had Mac Zanin on the show, so it's always great talking to him. Lots of insights there.
That was my other one that I did with you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did one together. Darren, my homie Darren. I've been trying to get him on the show for a minute, so thank you, brother. I connected with Eric Richards, and we talked about inventory, which was a great session, which was the last one that we did. I think that's the one we did in February. So he actually reached out to me on Facebook, and I love those episodes. I love when people reach out and they're like, "Hey, man, I like your podcast. Let's do a session or whatever." And it's not a vanity thing, but I just like when people reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, let's do a session," because I always feel like those conversations are good.
Well, because they're bringing ideas to the table that they're listening to you and they're thinking, hey, I have something that maybe you haven't ever touched upon before. And then they're bringing something fresh and new to the table. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm. So, Jeff Hunter, General Motors, Jeff, dude, this guy's blowing up, man. It's awesome and now that was our second session together. And he's such a great example of what you can do with social media. Such a great example. If you take this thing and run with it, you can't tell me that it doesn't work. You can't tell me that you're not going to sell cars from it. You can't tell me that you're not going to see personal success from it. Just the fact of learning the features and benefits of a vehicle, just doing that to shoot a video, if you do that oftentimes, by the end of a year, you're going to have so much knowledge about your product.
We were in a morning meeting this morning, actually, and what my GSM said, if you guys don't know anything about this vehicle, then talk to insert salesman, because he does social media. He does walk arounds on all of them when they come in, every 6 weeks at this point when they get here. And then we all run out there to get a video of the one we have.
Right. Before it's gone. Shoot it before it's gone. But yeah, I mean, like, just imagine at the end of the year, there's no way you're not going to be an expert. You know, and there's no way that you're not going to be an authority on that product. So, and he's been doing it for several years now. So it's awesome to see that all his efforts pay out. Is it pay out or pay dividends? Let's say that. Pay dividends.
Show results.
They're paying you dividends, Jeff. Your efforts are paying you dividends. So, no, but in all seriousness, like, it's really cool to see that, and if he can do it, you can do it too. So if you're out there listening to this and you're thinking about, should I do social media or not? Hell yeah, you should do it. And look at Jeff.
Yeah, you're probably doing social media already. Just shift a little bit.
Look at Jeff's stuff. That's the other thing. Success leaves a blueprint. So see what he does and then mimic it, and you're going to get similar results. Right? All right. So that's simple.
Success leaves a blueprint. Is that a herbism?
Yes, it is. Do you disagree?
Or like a Zieglerism? He said that a couple of times. This is a Zieglerism.
He did?
Uh-huh.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not trying to steal anything, but
a herbism.
Yeah. So, who else? Derek Bumper was on the show too. He's another person that reached out to me during the season. It was like, hey, bro, let's connect. Let's do a session. I was like, absolutely. My homie Ian Nethercott. That was an interesting intro for sure. So at NAB we had a great conversation about a couple different things. I think we talked websites and we talked whatchamacallit. We talked about the chip shortage and so there was a lot of takeaways. If you started that episode, the information came like 30 minutes into it. So I know there was I typically don't do a lot of small talk. I like to get right into it. So, but that one was one that we had a little back and forth there for a minute, but he's a podcaster too. And sometimes I hate even saying that because I've never considered myself a podcaster, but
how many seasons do you have now?
6. Right. So we talked about, we had a podcaster, a session there for the first 20 to 30 minutes, but I promise you there's some car information in there if you stick it out. Yeah. And then obviously we had our very first sponsors, Foureyes. What? Gotta give a shout out to the sponsors. We had Foureyes on the season. We had their CEO, and we had a great conversation about their platform, about the state of the industry. Lots of good information. David Steinberg was on the show, and not because they're the sponsor of the show, but I think their program is pretty dope. I think that in an industry where we are in the industry right now, we've become alternative. It's an alternative based industry. Like, people are looking for cars that they can't get, and we have to be able to provide alternatives. So one of the basics of their platform or their product, their solution, is that it keeps that information flowing to customers, and not only of specific vehicles, but of alternatives that match the criteria that customer is looking for. And it's done based on on certain behaviors and actions that the customer is taking on your website. And so it's a very targeted. Yeah. And then you see those customers return to the website, which is great. Like since we started working with them at some of the stores, we have, they're on our top 10 sources that route traffic back to the site. Really good behaviors. Like if you please tell me that on your stores, you have your goal set up in 2022. If you do, then you'll be able to see all the actions that those customers from those initiatives take when they come back. Like they're clicking on forms, they're calling, they're spending healthy time on your website. They're looking at multiple pages because they have all those different alternatives. So it's a really cool program, and it's super cheap, and they do a demo for you guys for free, or not a demo, but a trial for free. So you can kick it off, and it's, no risk on your part. Just try it out. And if it doesn't work, I love vendors that do that, by the way. And that's started more on the pandemic side of things. But I love vendors that are so confident in their product that they're like, hey, I'm going to let you try this out for free, and you come to your own conclusions. Like that's freaking cool. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'll try that for free. All the vendors that listen are going to be like, Herb, you're always hitting us up for free trials, man. Like, yes, I am.
Yes, he is. Yes.
So
it's like your favorite word. Free? Okay, I'll do it.
Yes, I'll try it out. Sign me up. Why would I not? It's free. Let me try it. If it doesn't work, then I won't do it. And if it works, then I'll sign up. That, to me, that makes sense. So
the thing that I like about Foureyes is, like, you look at it from the analytics level, but in the CRM, you can see that happening too. The customers, you can watch them in the notes that Foureyes drops into the CRM. You can watch the customer ramping up, and you're like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Somebody call this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yes. So, and I have a special place in my heart because they're our sponsors, and they're the first sponsors of the podcast. So,
yep.
Foureyes, whoop whoop.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. No, but all seriousness, if you want to check it out, there's going to be a link for your free trial. Go check it out, sign up, take a look, do a demo, try it. What do you got to lose?
And it's not. Sometimes when you do free trials, they're quite invasive is not the word, but like we have to participate in the free trial and learn the product and like learn how to use it. And Foureyes is pretty much like, we're going to turn it on and then you're going to succeed.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, if I left anybody out, I apologize. Know that I do appreciate you coming on and taking the time to talk to our audience here at the Dealer Talk podcast. And for some of the folks that we try to connect with, like Megan and Marvelous Mark and some of the other that we had technical difficulties or COVID got in the way, let's definitely try to catch up for season 7. Love to have you guys on the show. So make sure to reach out and expect some changes for season 7. Well, now we have Miss Charity Ann as a co-host. And we're going to try to do things a little bit different, but without losing the core, which is to have the people that are doing this deal day in and day out, having them give their insights. And hopefully that's something that, I know I learned from it, and hopefully you, the listener, can learn from it as well.
Absolutely.
Cool. So that's all we have for today, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Should we do a 5 years?
Why not?
I think we should ask Charity.
I was surprised that you
So,
were.
Charity, there is one question that I ask everybody that comes on the show. And that question is, where do you see the automotive industry headed in the next 5 years, and why?
I don't know what the shift will be, but I think that we're going to see a really, really big shift away from regular gas vehicles into the alternative fuel vehicle stuff. That's what I think. And I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think it's right there, and we're poised to see a shift.
Right on. Well, there you have it, folks. Miss Charity Ann Farmer. Welcome to the Dealer Talk podcast, and thank you for sharing those insights with us. That's all the time that we have for today. And as usual, we'll talk later.
We only host a well-respected. The vendor Lexus Nexus. We don't sell digital marketing. What you do? We inspect it with our DT vendor management.
Now more than ever, businesses need more efficient sales. That's why thousands of dealerships trust Foureyes to help with things like automated inventory email updates and ensuring all of your leads get into the CRM. To try Foureyes for free, visit foureyes.io/dealertalk. That's foureyes.io/dealertalk.